Inherent and residual risk. Inherent and residual risks are core concepts in risk management. Let's explore their differences. Definition of inherent risk. The natural level of risk present in a process, activity, or third-party relationship before any controls are applied. It reflects the raw exposure to potential threats or vulnerabilities without mitigation. Inherent risk is the level of risk present before any mitigating actions are taken. Example, sharing sensitive customer data with a cloud storage vendor inherently carries the risk of a data breach, unauthorized access, or service downtime. Consequences of inherent risks. 1. Data loss due to lack of security. Effective data protection requires robust and well-thought-out security controls. Default security settings are insufficient to protect against calculated cyber attacks. Lack of reliable protection makes it easier for threats to enter your network and steal your data with little to no delay. 2. Network hack due to lack of access control. Protecting your data comes down to access control or tracking who has access to what information. A common consequence of inherent risk is a lack of control over systems. If you don't manage the access levels between users, anyone can gain access and compromise your most important data. Definition of residual risk. This level of risk remains after implementing controls, safeguards, or risk mitigation measures. It reflects the reduced risk level an organization accepts while continuing the activity or partnership. Example, the same company implements strong measures such as encryption, regular vendor audits, and contractual agreements regarding breach liability. Residual risk remains after implementing risk controls. A company's inherent risk from cyber attacks is high. Installing firewalls and monitoring tools lowers it to residual risk. Key differences between inherent and residual risk. 1. Time of assessment. Inherent risk. Evaluated at the start of the risk management process when no controls or safeguards have been applied. Residual risk. Assessed after applying controls to determine the effectiveness of risk mitigation strategies. 2. Focus. Inherent risk. Focuses on identifying vulnerabilities and threats in their raw form to understand the worst-case scenario. Residual risk focuses on the remaining vulnerabilities and their potential impact after mitigation efforts, ensuring they are within acceptable limits. 3. Risk level. Inherent risk. Typically higher because it assumes no protections are in place. Residual risk. Lower, as controls and mitigation efforts reduce the likelihood or impact of risks. 4. Purpose in risk management. Inherent risk. It points out where we need to focus the most since it shows the biggest threats. Residual risk. It checks whether the safety measures are working and whether the remaining risks are acceptable for the organization. Why are these important? Knowing about both inherent and residual risks is important. This helps you decide where to invest your resources and make smart choices. For example, with high inherent risks, you can focus on where you need the tightest controls, while residual risk shows whether those controls are doing their job and whether the leftover risk is okay for your organization. Both types of risk matter. Understanding both risks is essential to see the full picture of possible threats.